All right, thanks a lot, everyone. My name is Bill Bright. I am the program director for the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, sponsored by the United Way of Greater Mercer. You all have my email address, obviously, because you answered this log on for the Zoom call. These are my phone numbers. Cell is always open for everybody, and the bottom one is my direct line at United Way. The VITA program provides a free federal and state tax return for households with under 65,000 total household income. That is somewhat of a soft number, depending on the situation. We generally are well below that. Our average AGI is about $30,000, but in some areas that we serve, particularly in the Hamilton area, we have a lot of retirees from the state of New Jersey. So if they happen to be a married filing joint couple and they each getting Social Security and a state pension, that could easily push to $80,000 or $90,000. But we generally will do those because it's fairly straightforward tax preparation. And those folks, have been coming to us for years. So they are a small part of our overall numbers, but we generally can't say no to seniors when they're in that kind of situation. The program is fully supported by the IRS and the state of New Jersey. We are sponsored by other individual organizations, and they're called a site. That's where we do our work. And each site is run by a site coordinator. I'll get into that role in a bit. We use a program called TaxWise Online to e-file our returns. The most VITAs use the program called Tax Slayer. That is the one that has the contract with the IRS. We actually pay for our use of TaxWise. It's a very modest fee, but we find that it supports the type of work that we do very nicely. And for a variety of reasons, we just haven't made the switch to the other software platform. Okay, the VITA program are at various sites in Trenton, Hamilton area and other Mercer County locations. In Trenton, we are at the Salvation Army 3 days a week. Those are in the afternoons from 12 to 4. That the Salvation Army is on East State Street. It's right near the Trenton train station. It's a big multi-purpose room we get to use. There's a lot of parking. It's very convenient for everybody to get to. It's a very safe neighborhood. Boys and Girls Club, we use their facility on Spruce Street in Lawrenceville. That's right near the Trenton Farmers Market. So right where Ewing and Lawrenceville and Trenton meet. That site is a Saturday morning site from about 11 to 3. That's a very busy site. We get a lot of work done there. We're also at the Hamilton Public Library. That tends to be more of our complicated returns, for lack of a better term. We do see people who are homeowners who have mortgage payments, who also have slightly higher incomes, or may in fact have brokerage statements. So most of the preparers there will need advanced certification. And then they are there 2 mornings a week. That's Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings at the Hamilton Library. And then United Way, our offices are on Route 1, right next to the motor vehicle, just south of the Quaker Bridge Mall. And we're there Tuesday and Wednesday evenings and Thursday mornings. So last year we had 9 sessions, roughly 4 hours each. We go from early February, probably the first full week in February, through April 15th. And each site has at least 1 4-hour shift. And that's what we're asking volunteers to commit to, basically 1 4-hour shift per week throughout the whole season. Now, we realize that obviously things come up, students have tests, you're going away, you get sick, whatever, as long as there's communication that we can maybe get some substitutions in. But we tailor a lot of our marketing based on the fact that how many folks we're going to have at any given site. So if we're counting on 5 or 6 preparers and only 3 show up and 20 people are there lined up, that's going to be a problem. So it's very important that we communicate all our needs as far as who's going to be where. There are four primary roles within the VITA program. The first one, and it's kind of an under appreciated role, one that's very important and one that we've been lacking the last 4 or 5 years, and that is the greeter or the intake screener. Now, what that person does, if for some reason you're uncomfortable actually doing returns, this could be a great opportunity because it's the first point of contact that people have with the program. They come into the site, they meet the person at the door. They're asked if they have their proper ID, photo ID and social security cards for them and everybody on the return, and that they have all their proper documentation. They're given, their sign. They get them to sign in our intake sheet. They take the forms to another area to fill out. And then, and so the intake person also will sort of monitor, make sure that they're not getting lost, like they understand what needs to be done. When that's ready, they'll go and sit with a tax preparer who will start going through all their documents and the 4-page intake form and start preparing the return. It's up to them to make sure that all the questions on the form are answered yes or no. In general, most of our returns are very, very straightforward. We're talking 1 or 2 W-2s, and we have to ask based on New Jersey's tax return, either their property taxes paid or their the amount of rent that they pay. There's other things, we'll get into that in a little bit, but once the return is completed, then it goes to a quality review, and the quality reviewer will basically check all the data input. Again, important things that everything is, name is spelled correctly, the social security number is on there correctly, telephone number, we'll make sure we have to have everybody's telephone number so we can contact them if we need to. And then all the information on the tax forms, W-2s, 1099s, social security statements, all that is entered correctly. The EINs for the W-2s are correct. Once all that's done with the reviewer, he or she will then print it off and sit down with the client and review the return, explain what their refund is and why, or unfortunately, how they may actually have to owe, and ways of paying that. And then they will sign the form and be on their way. The site coordinator basically is the person in charge of the day-to-day operation of the site. And in most cases, the site coordinator is also the reviewer, and maybe the preparer as well. As we get deeper in the season, we start doing a lot of peer review, meaning if we get busy and 2 people are next to each other, and each one has a return that's quite simple, they could check each other's work as a way of kind of speeding things up if that's needed. All right, the way we kind of approach the process, starting in the early next year, we'll be doing client outreach through direct mail, social media, local advertising on, believe it or not, people still do read the Trenton Times and the Trentonian. We put some stuff on buses and bus shelters. When they get to the site, again, we have to make sure that they have all the proper IDs. They wait in a designated area, start filling out their forms. They're called to meet with a volunteer who's going to prepare the return. So in addition to reviewing their tax documents, we also have some supplementary information, meaning their rent, any out-of-pocket medical expenses they might have, bank info for direct deposit, if they were at a previous VITA site, and any kind of special instructions that might come up. And we'll get to that much deeper into that during the actual training session. Again, then they organize the documents and start the input process. When they're done, it's subject to quality review. Once that's done and the taxpayer is on board with that, they sign the e-file authorization. We return all those documents to the taxpayer and inform them that it's going to be e-filed within 24 hours. And the only time they'll hear from us is if there's an error. If it gets kicked back for some reason, we have to initiate contact with the client. Again, that's why a phone number is so important. Again, we will not contact them unless there's an error. Unfortunately, we do have a fair amount of errors, and it can be for a lot of things, and we'll review that when we get deeper in the training as well. Okay, so who do we serve? All right, through all this process, what are the type of people that we have? Well, this is our client base. In 2022, as of early May, we had done just over 1,600 returns at roughly $300 per return. That's $500,000 we've saved in the community that we didn't have to go to a paid tax preparer. Now, these were where all the returns were done last year. As you can see, a chunk of them in the Trenton area were done at Salvation Army and the Boys and Girls Club, and United Way as well. Of note is filing status. 74% of our returns are single taxpayers. This has been a fairly static kind of percentage for a number of years now. We don't know why we can't get more married filing joint or head of household. Of course, with head of household, the issue there is there has to be a dependent involved, so that might trigger a lot of these refundable tax credits that we'll talk about. Singles are obviously the easiest ones to do because it tends to take out a lot of the other refundable and non-refundable credits that you won't see in some of the other filing statuses. Our average age was 54. So again, we do quite a few returns for seniors. The percentage of our clients using direct deposit, it was only 55% last year. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is some are unbanked. We are trying to get a banking relationship at a few of the sites so that we could have someone there to potentially open up returns for, I'm not returns, but open up accounts for our clients. What we do have in place of that is a working relationship with PNC where clients can take their IRS checks to a PNC branch and cash it for free rather than going to a check cashing facility. Others, again, maybe they came in, they didn't have their direct deposit and they didn't want to go home and get it. They just wanted to file. A lot of seniors, believe it or not, even though they have a banking relationship, they've been getting paper checks for decades and they just as soon keep going with that. Others use interesting rationale that by requesting a paper check, it's going to be maybe 3 weeks longer until they get their refund. So that's 3 weeks longer, they won't spend it. And that's pretty much what our clients do. That refund is going to be used for bill paying or maybe a trip to see grandchildren or something like that, vacation. Our adjusted gross is well below the 65,000 threshold. As you can see, it's right around 30,000. Our total refunds were 1.4 million. The average across all 1,600 returns was $845. For those that actually got a refund, it was $1,600. And believe it or not, we had 362 taxpayers who had a balance due with an average of $1,100. Our unemployment numbers were way down, which is a good thing. A lot of people are working again. All the COVID stuff is gone, so a lot of people are working, and only 85 returns out of all those had any reported unemployment. So that's kind of an encouraging sign, I think. The earned income credit, again, this is something that is based on the amount of your filing status, your age, and the amount of wages that you actually earn. Again, we only had 464,000 in EIC credit across 285 returns. The child tax credit was across even fewer. Again, that is really dependent on the fact that we have so few head of households filing. We're kicking around some ideas to try and improve that number. That's kind of where the biggest impact of our program can be, to make sure the folks that are able to get some of these credits are indeed filing to get them. And just as an eye on the future, so what we're going to be doing once towards November, the whole idea of training that I try and do is just a few big bullet points. The biggest one is you're going to learn the principles of U.S. individual income tax law, for better or for worse. Again, the IRS doesn't write the tax code; they just implement it. That comes from Congress. And then we'll go through the whole tax return filing process, how that whole works, using our TaxWise online software. There are things that do complicate things that we need to focus on, and that's tax aspects of the Affordable Care Act, which has now been with us. I believe this is our 6th or 7th year, and that can cause problems for people as they apply for health insurance through the marketplace, because you have to reconcile income based on the credit that they got for payment of the healthcare premium. And then we'll focus a bit on New Jersey and Pennsylvania tax returns. Again, we there's a fair amount of stuff that goes into New Jersey. Again, income-wise, it all flows through from the federal, but there are certain things that we need to focus on for New Jersey. Pennsylvania is fairly a straight forward process. The issue there is if we have people who, because of our proximity to Pennsylvania, either they live in New Jersey and work in Pennsylvania or vice versa, and they didn't have the appropriate tax taken out. So if you're a New Jersey resident, you pay New Jersey tax. You're a Pennsylvania resident, you pay Pennsylvania tax, the reciprocal tax agreement between the two states. We do get fair amounts of other state taxes, and we don't really train on that. That's usually for more senior tax return preparers to focus on, particularly New York is the biggest headache of all. And then we'll spend some time in training VITA best practices. We'll call this like, what if situations. A lot of stuff, our folks are fairly basic information, but there's always outliers. What do you do in this situation? What do you do in that situation? What's the best way to do it? We have found that now that this will be our second full year of totally being back in front of people, no drop-off service, that it's a good way to train everybody as well. When something comes in that's a little out of the ordinary, it's good that we can share it with the preparers in the room, saying, okay, if you ever have one of these come up again, now we all know what to do because we worked on this together to figure this out. And we get a lot of learning out of that way. And I know I learned a lot when I first started on this process. So, I mean, that in a nutshell is kind of, sort of an overview of the program. This is sort of what we're going to be focusing on in November. And I want you to, I'll be sending out more email as well, but kind of mark your calendar. We're going to have an open house at the United Way building on Wednesday, October 11th at 7:00. Be a chance to come by if you want, meet other volunteers, ask them questions. I'm going to do a short demo on, what the training looks like and the test software. And then maybe we'll do a little TaxWise online demo. And then just sort of set a base for what we're going to do starting in November when the IRS training materials are available and when the testing software is up as well. Again, that won't happen till probably right before Thanksgiving, and we'll be starting in earnest then. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And